All right, welcome back everyone to Dirty Boots Capital. Today we have Sarah back with us. We had Sarah on probably a couple of months back. She has an amazing story of how she got started in her business. And if you haven't seen it, please go back, watch the video. It is absolutely amazing what Sarah has done for herself. And so I wanted to get her back on to talk about some things. And so Sarah, welcome back.
Thanks, Tony. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun conversation today. What I'm finding out there is there are a lot of successful business owners who are actively planning to put a plan B in place in case the you know what hits the fan. And that could be a lot of different things, right? We could have another pandemic. We could have food shortages. We could have World War III, right? To go to the, so to speak, extremes, right? So I know a lot of folks who are working to put a plan B in place. And I just wanted, so you're a successful person. I want to get you on and talk about, what you may be doing towards putting a plan B in place. So tell me a little bit about, and I know you already know it's important to have a plan B in place. So tell me a little bit about why you think it's important to have a plan B.
Oh, well, just look at what's going on in the world right now. The most unexpected things have happened in the last few years. So, I mean, we never really expected to be even considering World War III. I mean, the pandemic, that was pretty shocking. To me, anyways. I never imagined that our government would even attempt to tell us that we needed to stay in our homes or shut down our businesses or do anything like that. The food shortages were a big one. I honestly, though, kind of saw this stuff come in a little bit earlier, but I watched certain people, George Gammon. But I mean, I've actually been following Alex Jones, and I know this is he's totally my style, which is hilarious. So if you're wondering what my family thinks of me, I'm the female version of Alex Jones to them. But since I was like 12 years old, I used to watch him on the actual television, So, awesome. I mean, just picking up things here or there, I've always kind of been into like the dark interwebs and the undercover stuff. And so, or maybe even like, I don't want to get your channel a strike, but like the poke movement, if you know what I mean. So they've been predicting stuff like this for a long time. But it's kind of normalcy bias, I think, that keeps you, I believe it wholeheartedly. But at the same time, it's like, well, when is that going to happen? It's so far in the future. It might be in my, when my kids are adults or something like that. So, and to be honest, I still have normalcy bias. I'm still not doing all of the things that I really feel like I should.
Yeah. And I think that affects all of us in some way, but, it's interesting. You talk about the pandemic, I think that's impacted us in such a strong way. And just recently I was on Twitter and I'm looking at some just different feeds that come across and different individuals who are posting on what's happening today in Shanghai, right? And the lockdowns that they are experiencing and how for each building with residents, everybody has to stay in lockdown and stay within their apartment. And during the day, there are only 2 people who can leave that building to be able to go out to get packages and mail from the outside, from the doorway, from the gate to bring in to the residents, right? Mm-hmm. So if you lived in that building and you had ordered a package of food, right, to be delivered, there was only 2 people who had the hazmat suits, right? For lack of a better description, right? It's a hazmat suit that they put on to be able to exit the residence, the building, to be able to go retrieve these packages and deliver them to each one of the residents. That's happening today. Mm-hmm. That wasn't like 2 years ago during the initial pandemic, right? That's happening today. And so now as we go forward and we think, hey, we're through this, we're done. This can never happen again. It's happening in Shanghai. And so you see it and it's like, can that come to the States?
Well, that's funny that you say that, because that's the exact thought that I had when I saw the lockdowns happening in China, when they were, trapping people quite literally in their apartments. And I was like, wow. First of all, I couldn't believe that was happening anywhere in the world right now. And then I was like, they wouldn't do that here, would they? Well, to some degree they did. They may not have, locked us quite literally in our homes, but they attempted to manipulate us into locking ourselves into our homes.
That's just one scenario where things can go sideways on us and kind of throw us into a bit of a crisis, right? So we're all looking at what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine, and that part of the world. Unfortunately, some bad things are happening, and that's impacting the flow of different commodities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oil, natural gas, the flow of food products, right? Raw materials like wheat and corn, right? Basic necessities people need in that part of the country. And so you look at that and you say, well, what if that gets contagion and that spreads to the West, right? To us here in the United States, which it very literally could, because once you have problems with supply lines,
Mm-hmm.
then that could very easily impact us here in this country. And then going to the grocery store and being forced to wear a mask is going to be the least of our problems, because
Mm-hmm.
there's not even going to be food on the shelf for us to buy. So you and I think we see things the same way in terms of what's happening in the world today. It's happening very quickly, and it can reach our shore and our borders very quickly. So I'm with you. Something we need to plan for the plan B, and when it happens, who knows when that's going to be. But it's better to have one than
Mm-hmm.
not to have one. I think, it's always kind of tough talking about a plan B, because sometimes folks think, hey, I need to have everything in place right now today, but plan Bs happen over years, right? You put these things together over years to be able to have, kind of protect yourself, right? So tell us a little bit about where you are in your plan B planning and what you've done so far and what more you want to do for yourself.
Well, so my first step was buying gold and silver. That just made the most sense to me. It's really easy to understand. You can look back in history, you can look at other places in the world, and you can see how gold and silver has held up in times of hyperinflation or crisis of some kind. So I started with that, and crypto. I understand just a little bit about crypto and the possibilities with that. So I got some Bitcoin and Ethereum. And a whole bunch of different altcoins. Honestly, I should have just kept my money where I put it initially. So I just kind of freaked out and started moving things around. Stuff went down, the classic first time investor stuff. Yeah. So guns. We bought some guns, and that was just kind of the first step. I ran to Idaho from Washington State, kind of considering that a plan B at the time, until things continued to unfold. And now I'm like, well, I don't know if there's any, safe state necessarily. Maybe Florida. I don't know. But I actually then I listened a lot to Lynette Zhang, and she talks a lot about community. So, and that's one thing that I've always just kind of hunkered down and ran my business. And I have, good acquaintances and good people in business, but I really started to reach out and build a community of all kinds of like-minded people. So like MDs, naturopaths, local farmers, people who are kind of in the same mindset and wanting to do something about it.
Yeah, because part of this is not just about having, all the provisions you're going to need for, say, a 6-month, period of time or a year for a pandemic to pass through, right? It's also about, right? I mean, I know nothing about medicine, but to your point, how cool would it be for me to plan now to be able to know somebody and get in touch with somebody in my community that knows medicine much, much better than I do, right? Mm-hmm. That's part of my plan B, right? That's stuff I need to get in place, right? Farmers, right? I have a garden. We've doubled it in size this year, which is great, but being able to learn some tricks in farming and sustainment from that aspect, it's always great to know farmers in the area. Right. And so this is where it takes time to develop these things over years. And none of us need to be an expert in every single one of them. So I love the fact that you bring that up, that it's community, because that's such a big piece of it.
Mm-hmm. It is. I do really think it's important too. And this is what I don't have. I don't have a lot of space to grow my own food because of the shortage that we are going to experience with the fertilizer. And I've talked to people about it, and they're like, well, we have Monsanto or whatever, and they'll just make up the difference. And I'm like, listen, I'm in business. There's a reason why Monsanto isn't already producing all the fertilizer we need. If they had the ability, or we had the need for whatever, I don't know what they produce versus what Russia produces, or any of the details on that. And I just know that to bring things online to that extent is extremely difficult. And if we're going to have a shortage, then we're definitely going to have it this year, and if somebody's going to pick up some slack in the States, then it's going to be a ways out.
Yeah, and it's not just being able to establish a manufacturing plant to make more fertilizer. It comes down to what are the raw materials that go into that manufacturing process, right? So we've heard some about how we have this chip shortage in the States, right? They're manufacturing cars, but they don't have chips to put into those cars to be able to sell them off the lot. So, there's a big push to, fund this Chips for America Act. And that's a $52 billion bill that's going through, right? It hasn't been passed yet, but they're pushing it forward. And the goal is to help manufacturers here in this country set up new manufacturing plants. And that may be all good and fine, but if those manufacturing plants for semiconductors can't get the raw materials to be able to build a semiconductor wafers, because silicon is the top ingredient, raw material that goes into it. And guess who's the top supplier of that? By far,
Can I guess?
China.
Is it China?
Right, exactly, right.
Mhm.
And then you look at the next two right behind that. It's gallium arsenide and it's germanium, right? And again, guess who's the number one supplier of those two raw materials? Same guy, right? Same country, right. China, right? So it's not just, and to your point, it's not just, hey, Monsanto, let's set up shop and let's go pump out some more fertilizer. It doesn't really work like that. You need to understand where the raw materials are coming from. So, again, I think that's something where business owners like you, like me, we understand and we look at things a little differently. It's not just, the politicians are saying, hey, we're going to set up more production facilities for this thing that where we have low supply on. We look at it and we say, okay, you can do that, but where are you going to get all the piece parts to be able to make that thing that we need? You guys don't control that.
Yeah, it's really it's simple. I mean, to put it in really simple terms, actually, and back to my own business, it would be like me, when we had raw material shortages, we had plastic that we couldn't get our hands on, certain items we couldn't get our hands on, say there's 5 ingredients that make up that cup of coffee. Well, if we can't get the coffee beans, then we're going to have to look elsewhere, which is going to take time. And can we even get it? And where is it coming from? And yeah, we understand that. Here's something too, as a business owner, that you think of, when you think of making some sort of switch in your company, after so many times of trying to drastically switch, say a POS system or something, better than to just not think it through, because something is going to bite you in the butt. And if not one thing, multiple things, something. And I'm talking, this is a simple business that I'm running. This isn't like a huge operation, of some sort of complicated thing,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. We just think differently. And I want to bring it back to the gold, what you said about gold. So you're getting together a gold position, you're getting together a crypto position, you have guns and ammo to protect yourself. You may not have a farm, but I like your what you shared about creating a community, right? So maybe you create some sort of trade within your community with somebody who does have a farm, right? To be it, so you can get some fresh food, vegetables, eggs, poultry, whatever it is, right? So you're working to create that community, but on the gold piece of that, right? So it's not just business owners who are looking to position themselves. I did a video with Lynette, actually. You brought up Lynette Zhang, right? We did a video together and we looked at what Russia and China have been doing to build their gold reserves. I'm not a very smart person, right? So what I do is I take a look around the room and I say, what are the smart people doing, right? And, you can beat up Russia and China all you want, some of these people out there, some of these pundits, but, I look around and I say, look at what Russia's doing. Look at what China's doing. They've been building up their gold reserves since 2008, right? And when you look at the charts, it's just a huge buildup that they've been doing since then. So if they're doing it, so do I, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the things I look for, is what are some of the smart people. And that's why I talk to folks like you, Sarah, to say, well, what's Sarah doing? What is she doing that I'm not doing, that I need to, kind of fill that hole in my plan that maybe I haven't thought of?
Well, yeah. Well, don't act like I'm the smart person. I do exactly that. I'll look at what the smart people are doing. I'll dig in, do a little bit of research. If it makes any kind of sense, and it always does, I will follow suit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the more we all talk about this sort of stuff, the more we try to help each other and, help other people, right? We all don't have all the right answers, right? And a plan B for you may not work for me, right? Or vice versa, right? We have to look at our own environment and be able to determine that for ourselves and be able to think it through for ourselves. Tell me a little bit about what you think about getting like a second passport if you did need to leave the United States in a hurry.
Well, so I watched The Nomad Capitalist. He's pretty much the go-to guy for that kind of a topic. I have yet to choose. I've got the small kiddos.
Yeah.
I need their dad with us, so he needs to agree. And it seems like anytime he's like gung-ho on one place, you'd almost have to have like 5 or 6 passports,
Yeah.
or, and I don't even know, can you have that many citizenships? I don't even know. So Mexico still feels good to me, but yeah, I have yet to go down that road. I mean, you were just talking about how, what was it, Georgia, that he was like gung-ho on Georgia, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope, the governments, you can't trust any of them. I'm afraid that there's going to be nowhere else to run.
Yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
same thing here. What I found is, I am still trying to get my second citizenship via descent because my parents were 100% Portuguese. So I am trying to get my Portuguese citizenship, which really becomes a European passport, right? Because they're all part of the European Union now. So if I can get it to Portugal, then that allows me to go to many, many other countries within that, European Union. So to the point that you bring up, with the country of Georgia, it used to be like Nomad Capitalists used to say that was a great place to go. And now it's almost like, well, there's other better places because things are just so fluid and, we don't want to lock ourselves in, but it just takes a long time to be able to get those things in place. So the time to do it is not when the what is hitting the fan, right? Mm-hmm. The time to do it is now, and plan for it, and talk, to your family and to your kids and say, hey, where do we all think the best place to go will be, and try to work towards that. So you're close to the Canadian border, and so what do you think about Canada?
My mom's from Canada. A lot of my family is up there. They don't talk to me anymore.
Traitor.
So yeah, and it's funny because I was on my way to get my dual citizenship there a few years back. I still could, but I would absolutely not want to be anywhere near Canada. I don't see that going in a good direction at all.
Yeah, the way the prime minister is running things up there, it's not a terribly positive place to go.
Oh yeah, he's a a staunch advocate for the Chinese Communist Party. So he said so himself.
Right. So kind of scary. So right. So as we talk through this stuff, as we learn from each other, we kind of look at it and we say, holy cow, our friend to the north of us, Canada, has those relations with the Communist Party. And should we be concerned about that? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make me feel good.
No, it's funny how loosely the relationship, I guess, that we have with the Communist Party. I mean, it should be, communism is a curse word to me. So I don't know. It's very, very strange. Where we've ended up at.
What does your, in terms of putting your plan B together? I don't know if you talk to your family and your friends about putting together a plan B and what you've done. Do they think you're like a tinfoil hatter? Do they think you're crazy? Do they think, oh, that's a good thing to have? Where do they fall on the spectrum with you?
Well, I mean, they definitely think I'm a tinfoil hatter. I'm pretty much tinfoil bodysuit at this point, but you can't tell anybody, right? I mean, because I can remember like 5 years ago when certain things would be brought up to me and I was just like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. Yeah. But the funny thing about it is whenever I've kind of screamed, and every so often there's something for me to scream from the rooftops about, and I'm trying to get people to listen, trying to get them to listen. And then boom, they realize that it was the truth, but they'll forget really quickly that, whenever you put up a stink about something and you're right, and then you're wrong again until you're right. And then you're wrong again until you're right. So it's just what they want to hear. Like, again, normalcy bias. It doesn't feel good to be on top of this kind of stuff. It's a bit stressful.
Yeah, it's interesting because I speak with a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life, right? And it's not just just successful business people that are putting together a plan B, right? There are people who have blue collar jobs who are putting together a plan B because they don't want to be held hostage to food shortages or shortages or rising prices, right? They just see it and they say this is BS. I don't subscribe to that, and they want to find a way out via their plan B, as much as they can, as much as any one of us can afford, because this can be a low cost solution or a very expensive solution, plan B, right? So we all
Mhm.
got to fit it into our own economics, right? Everybody's busy, right? Everybody has a job, everybody's working day to day. They have kids, right? Got to take them to soccer, got to lacrosse, whatever it is on any particular day. Everybody's busy. It becomes one of those things where I don't have time to think about it. I don't have time to think about it. Nothing's going to happen and until it does. By then, it's too late to plan for.
Yeah, and then the scary thing is thinking about how many of your family members are going to come knocking on your door when you're the only one that has, say, power
Yeah.
because you have a generator. I have a gas generator and a solar generator because, and I bought the gas generator before the gas prices skyrocketed because I listened to the smart people, and got the solar generator because I didn't trust that gas prices
Yeah,
weren't going
yeah.
to
And
skyrocket.
right. And it's not just, and again, this is where, you talk about thinking these things through, having the generator, having the solar generator, and beyond that, it's having enough gas cans to be able to store enough gas for the generator, right? Because I remember, so I'm in the Northeast and we have pretty severe storms that come through here in the wintertime, right? Ice storms, knock down trees, knock down power lines, and it affects the entire state, if not multiple states all at once. So we could be without power for 2 weeks at a time, literally, right? 2 weeks, right? And I remember one storm a couple of years back where even going to like a Lowe's or a Home Depot to buy gas cans weren't available. So even just the simple thing of saying, okay, I have a generator and I have a 5 gallon gas can to go get fuel, that's good. But if the day ever comes where you need to store more than just 5 gallons of fuel for your generator, right? Because what are you going to do? Fill up your generator with 5 gallons and then what? Go back and stand in line at the fuel pump, right? For 2, 3, 6 hours to get another 5 gallons. You don't want to do that. You want to have multiple gas cans to be able to store 20, 30 gallons at a time, right? And it hit me then. So that's when it hit me. And I said, holy cow, I need to plan for these things well in advance, because when it hits, that's not the time to go to the store to try to find gas cans because you ain't going to find them. It's
Yep.
it's amazing. So, do you have a particular, I'll call it a line in the sand on when you pull your rip cord for certain things? Do you have like, oh, okay, it needs to be World War III for you to pull your rip cord?
I don't necessarily, like you said, you have to be like, everything's really fluid. I am thinking a lot about being flexible. So I kind of have plans like if, say, food skyrockets, or if, hyperinflation kicks in. And this sounds
Yeah.
kind of extreme, but I'm in the coffee industry.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the one thing that people, one of the like four things that people want more than anything in the world. Once, things get to the point where maybe some people can't afford it, I will start bartering. And I already barter a little bit, like gift cards here. And I trade with other business owners
Good.
for
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. Great
Um,
idea.
yeah, I've actually considered accepting crypto payments, but ultimately, worst case scenario is when I see things getting really bad, I will start hoarding 5 pound bags of coffee, and that will be an amazingly easy thing to barter.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. No, because that's
and
a commodity, right? And
yeah.
people need their coffee. I know. I just went to BJ's last week and I bought a couple of things of 100 count coffee, right? Because
hmm
I don't want to be caught without my coffee. I just don't. Right?
Yeah, people will chew on a coffee bean if they need to.
Yeah. We'll wrap this up. You've given us a ton of good ideas to think about and to kind of put in play for ourselves, right? So tell us a little bit about where you go to find some helpful information or to be able to think through some of this stuff yourself, where do you go to find that?
Alaska Prepper. He's super awesome. He's a hardcore prepper. He has been for years. For Patriots, that is a website where I bought my solar generator.
Okay.
Lynette Zhang, and then her new channel, the Beyond Gold and Silver. That's been really cool. And then the Nomad Capitalist, though I have yet to finalize any plans through, but it's great to listen to him. You get to know what's going on around the world, and it's really important now to keep up on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he gives a little more of maybe a macro view of what's happening in the world and geopolitically and just different things from a world standpoint. So so those are some great resources. We're going to put them down below. We'll put them up so the viewers can kind of go there and kind of start doing their own research on what they might want to put in place for their plan B. So Sarah, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and helping us talk through this a little bit. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Absolutely. We'll have you again soon.